Hello. So I learnt this morning that yesterday was either International or World Mental Health Day, which is ironic because that is the day that I called and booked a therapy appointment for myself, without even realizing that I was doing it on the day that kind of thing is designed to be explored and talked about. I'm going to apologize up front for reasons that will become clear in a bit. I'm not going to edit out the pauses or the bits where I lose my train of thought. So I apologize if it's a little bit laborious to get through this. But I think it's necessary for you to see me unrehearsed when I talk about this kind of thing, because usually I will record 5 to 10 minutes of video on the very rare occasions that I do this. No, actually, let me rephrase. Usually I'll record 5 to 10 minutes of video and give up because I hit a wall at some point and a thought just disappears out of my brain, and I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about literally 2 seconds ago? And I'll be like, nah, I can't do this, or it's not worth discussing, and I'll get rid of whatever thought I have, because forming coherent thoughts on the fly and being able to express them while I'm also distracted by sort of seeing my own face in the phone is a thing that I'm finding increasingly difficult to do. To be able to speak while there is any kind of outside stimulus and still keep my train of thought. And I'll explain how that is an important thing in a second. I think it's important to talk about these things publicly. Anyone who knows me outside of work and anyone who's known me growing up knows that I'm a bit of a weirdo. I've always sort of struggled with the idea of what people think of me, because I know that I in myself feel about 3 or 4 different types of persons sort of going existing within me, and they come out at various times and unpredictably and often in very conflicting moods. I can be sort of very, very serious and get sort of fixated on causes like climate change and whatnot, and alienate a lot of friends doing that. But then I can also be a hyperactive child at the drop of a hat for no discernible reason other than when I've dosed myself up on sugar, that obviously sets it off. But I think it's important to talk about these things publicly because as I said, as I may not have said, I've started this video a couple of times. I'll repeat myself if I have to, if I'm unsure, rather. My awareness of what falls within the boundaries of mental health has expanded considerably, specifically because people have spoken with conviction about the symptoms that they experience in their various whatever mental illnesses they have, or whatever just things they've got going on. And it helps, and it has helped me realize what is right and what is not right. When something is a little off and shouldn't be there. And it's helped me seek help, because I've gone, oh fuck, I feel that all the time. Is that a mental illness or a symptom of a mental illness? Fuck. I'm not sure what where I lie in regards to all of this, but I am currently going through a process of discovery with a doctor, and I guess that's a good place to sort of start. When I came back from the UK, I was hoping that a lot of the burden that I was feeling mentally, and a lot of the drain I was feeling having lived in London would go away. I was hoping that the sun and being in nature and next to the beach and having access to all this readily available and attractive physical activity that doesn't involve running down a smoggy London street in the rain would help me feel considerably better, or change my mental attitude in a significant way. And it took me about 4 weeks of being back here before I realized that whatever was burdening me in London didn't go away just coming to a different country, arguably a better country for your mental health. If anything, the move had exacerbated the anxiety that I was feeling. So I didn't want to take opportunities that were right in front of me because I didn't think I could do them. I was counting out making any kind of commitment to anything, partly because I'm still just getting settled and having infinite opportunity to pursue what you want, but also being sort of butting heads with that need for security makes decisions very hard to make. Especially when I've got like Alice here, who I need to be there for her. So it makes sort of deciding whether I want to pursue my own creative goals, for example, or whether I want to commit to a good job for a significant period of time, a difficult decision to make because I've got a lot of different things that I want to satisfy, and yet that is hard. However, it became very clear to me that I was suffering through not being able to commit to anything because I was constantly viewing every single path as a path to failure. I was afraid of every path being a path to failure. And that was an irrational anxiety that it was just plaguing every sort of step I was taking. And I was I was troubling, I can't find the right word. I was constantly talking to other people about how negative things were, how things, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. Everyone would be like, you've got this at your hands, you've got that opportunity. I'd be like, yeah, but here are all the ways that can fuck up. And that's not me. Before I left for the UK, that was never me. Here we go. The first one, I've lost track. So the point is, I was really low, or I have been really low, and I've been struggling in Australia, not because Australia, as a ecology isn't doing me well. The sun is out today, the birds are singing, and I do feel like I have infinite opportunity here, which is not a thing I felt I had in London. I am being finally paid a good wage that lets me live. I've got a much better work-life balance. I'm getting on really well with the people at work, and I think I'm doing good work there. I'm being appreciated, even though I don't feel like I'm doing anything special. Alice is doing really well, all things considering. I would argue that she is the stronger one of us at this point in time, which makes me feel really guilty. But the point is, I've got a really good relationship. I'm in a beautiful place. My work circumstances are excellent. My opportunities are endless. My life is really, really good. And I am a shut-in because I am too afraid to do anything because I have this weight on my mind that has been there throughout the entirety of my time in London and did not go when I left. So I've changed. Mentally I have changed. In my head, in a lot of ways, I'm a different person. But the mental burden I feel is stronger and different in a way that it is not normal. And so after about 4 weeks of being here, I realized that that was the case, that things weren't moving on and I wasn't getting better. In fact, I was getting worse. I was shutting down great opportunities out of anxiety. And more than that, out of just this general sort of feeling of like low fogginess. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And it was becoming burdensome to the people around me. And so I booked an appointment with the doctor and I went and saw him and he started, I sort of explained my situation and he started asking me questions. And some of the things he was like, do you think you have depression? And I was like, yes. And he said, and how long do you feel like you've been suffering with this? And I said, probably about 5 years. And the look on his face was pure horror. And it's entirely due to the fact that I was constantly afraid of money and didn't ever feel like I could take the time off work to go see doctors in the UK and get my head sorted out. And also I felt like being in the UK, the climate and just the social aspect of the country and all the horrible things that were going on and the way the society there is built to crush poor people. It was a situation that even if I went to seek help, I've always felt like I would never sort of have the room to move upwards to be able to properly... half my issue was the place that I was in, which I do still believe. But he started going through asking me questions. And he was like, do you ever feel listless, like you don't want to, like, do you feel like you don't want to leave the house on like a regular basis? Do you feel like the thoughts and feelings that you're having are actively negatively impacting your ability to interact with the world? I said, yes. He said, do you feel that you have difficulty concentrating on focusing on tasks and sort of remembering things? And I said, fuck, yes. I said, I'm scatterbrained all the time. I forget dates and events that people have told me about minutes after they've told them to me. I function at work because I'm goal-oriented and I sort of get tunnel vision for things that I know I have to do, because if I am doing that and then get distracted, I will completely forget what I was involved in. I have to write notes for myself all the time, and then I forget to write notes and I forget everything. I'm constantly asking Alice, what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow? Sorry, can you remind me are you working tomorrow? And where did you say you were working? And it caused problems in my relationships for my relationship for a while, because Alice thought that I just wasn't paying attention. And I thought I wasn't paying attention. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then the doctor basically said, are you forgetful? And I was like, massively. And we went through this list of questions. And I was like, holy fuck. All of these issues that I've been having. I never get out of bed with a feeling like, fuck yeah, I've got some things to do, let's go. I never have that sense of pep, of verve when I wake up in the morning. I'm constantly forgetful, I'm constantly scatterbrained. I constantly sort of move towards the lowest point of inertia, where I don't have to do this, I don't have to do that. If I'm in a place at home and someone is like, and I'm settled there, and they're like, do you want to do a thing? No, every single time. Because I don't get excited about leaving the house. I don't get excited about going to things. The entire time that Alice has known me, she's had to drag me everywhere she wants to go. Not because I don't want to do things with her, but because every single time I am sat in a chair and someone suggests, hey, get out of that chair and do a thing, there's something in my head that just, without even thinking, goes, I don't want to do that. And it goes beyond laziness, because obviously that laziness exists to a certain point, but if it's debilitating, then that's not right. That's not a thing that you can just chalk up to, oh, he's just a lazy guy. And he asks me questions like, he's like, do you feel sudden bursts of creativity or like a laser-like focus on things that sort of come from nowhere and can disappear very quickly? And I was like, that's my entire life. My entire life is getting really excited about a thing and being really good at it and productive. Sorry, I don't mean to say really good like an arrogant thing, but just being really productive about things. And then just dropping them like that. Maybe something else comes along and I'm like, ooh, I'm going to do that, fuck you. Or I just one day wake up and don't feel any of the inspiration that I felt up until that point. It just disappears. And he's like, well, that is a symptom of that could be an example of a manic episode in bipolar disorder. And if I had to diagnose myself, I'd probably say I was more on the side of sort of like adult onset ADHD or something like that, but like going through a major years-long depressive episode. But as I said, I'm going through a journey. I don't know what my diagnosis is, but I didn't even conceive the fact that somehow my entire life has been defined by the things that I'm interested in and then suddenly not, and then the things that I'm interested in and then suddenly not. This absolutely life-destroying, constant stop-start. I get to the point where I was playing musical comedy, which I just sort of fell into accidentally, and I was getting to the point where people were asking me to come up and down the coast to do gigs, and I dropped it and turned them off. And that could be its own thing. That could be a fear of failure. I don't know, but then I went into acting and I dropped the musical comedy. And then one day, London sort of like crushed the acting out of me, and now I can't get that inspiration back. And then I did writing for an incredibly intense period of time, and now I can't write to save my life. I stare at the screen and nothing comes. That is a symptom of some kind of mental illness. And I was just feeling like a child the whole time. I was feeling like I was looking at people, regular everyday people, who were able to pick a thing, and whether they liked it or not, commit to it for long, long stretches of time. People who became really good at things. Great guitarists, great singers, musicians whose bands get somewhere because they stay with it. I was doing pop culture reviews for years. And then one day I sat down and I stared at a computer and I was like, I've got nothing to say. And I'm not certain as to the extent at which sort of that like a years long span of productivity with things sort of constitutes in and of itself a symptom of a mental illness. But within that years-long period, there were days it would work, and then there were days that it wouldn't. There were days that it would work and days that it wouldn't. And they were almost regular. I never had any control over it whatsoever. And I felt like a baby that couldn't get things done. And that has been debilitating in my life. I have never been able to maintain a good streak beyond a few months to a few, let's just say at best, a couple of years. My anxiety overwhelms me to the point that if I have a job given to me, I can do it. But I cannot bring myself to seek out work. I cannot bring myself to seek out opportunities unless my actual survival is threatened. And I blame the fact that I'm 33 and was getting into the creative arts and didn't really have a steady income and all this kind of stuff on sort of like this sort of juvenile idealism. And that is absolutely a part of who I am. But I never before conceived the fact that my incredibly scattered productivity and my absolute inability to sit down as if my creative stuff is my job and go, okay, we're going to sit here until and do this thing today. That would never ever work. Because sometimes it was on and sometimes it was off. Not just my ability to produce, but also my interest. And that always felt like it was a thing that was spontaneous, would never ever be a thing that I would actually be able to decide could start or end. It would be a thing that would pop in on me. And I'd be like, fuck, I better get this down because I know that this ain't going to fucking happen again for, a few months. Or, a couple of days. If I could get halfway through an article that I was writing and then just kind of lose my train of thought and never ever go back to it. And this has been a constant negative aspect of my being through most of my life. And I've hated myself for it for the longest time until a doctor sat down and was like, do you experience sudden bursts of creativity and influence? And I've done it again. Constant bursts of creativity and inspiration and energy that then spontaneously disappear. And I was like, every single month of my life has been what you have just described. Except for the last probably year or so, in which my emotional register or my emotional spectrum when I was in my 20s was like this: bang, 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 big emotions all the time. Very little self-control. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more control over I've become better at identifying when I'm being irrational, either up high or down low. But my mood now is characterized more like this, like a low line. So I never even considered that the moments where I was feeling suddenly inspired could possibly themselves be an aspect of a mental illness. Because for me, the last few years have always been defined by a constant low mood. I've lost my train of thought again. This is the other thing. I want to be an activist. I want to be a force, an actual physical force for good in the world. I want to be able to talk about the things that interest me. I want to be able to talk about the things I love. I want to record videos and talk to people because I'm sick of rambling not incoherently. I'm sick of rambling in a preachy way by text on social media. I know I want to be able to communicate these messages verbally and to you as I'm doing right now, but I can barely string a fucking sentence together. And that's not who I am. That's not who I used to be. And I feel like, for the longest time, I felt like I was just losing it. I was losing whatever ability I had. I was getting old and decrepit. Maybe I had fucking early onset Alzheimer's or something like that. But then I sat down with a doctor and he was like, are you forgetful? Do you find it hard to focus on tasks? Do you get distracted easily? I was like, yes. And I never conceived that all of these things that were plaguing me in my life might actually be something that could be fixed. And I don't know if they can be. I've never tried medication, but in the last few years, when nothing that I did in my personal life made these feelings go away, I asked a few people I knew who were on medication, and they said it is the right medication for them in their particular frame of reference changed their lives. And when my issues were mostly behavioral, therapy was a great help, but I don't think therapy can unfuck my brain chemistry in the way that it's been fucked. So without even knowing it, today I've got a doctor's appointment, my second one, where we're going to sort of further dive into investigating what could potentially be happening up here with me. And at the same time, yesterday, without even knowing it, I booked a therapy session. And the worst part about it is the waiting. Knowing that there's something not right. Something that could possibly be cured. Or fixed at the very least. And knowing that I can't get a therapy appointment with the person that I wanted for months because she's booked out. So I have to wait a month for someone I don't know. And knowing that I've got several doctor's appointments before I'm ever going to likely find out if I need to be on medication or not. But I'm not afraid of those things. I'm eager to get to that point and to experience them. Because at the end of the day, mental health is like any other physical ailment. Like mental health issues are like any other physical ailment. If you've got a broken arm, you go to the hospital, you get it set. If you've got the flu, you take antibiotics. No, the flu's a virus and antibiotics are bacterial, aren't they? If you've got a bacterial infection, you take antibiotics. If you've got a cut, you put a Band-Aid on it and you treat it so it heals. And I think, relatively speaking, I can come across as quite high functioning, but I know I can feel it in myself that is degrading, that my ability to function in society is degrading, that I'm not seeing people because I'm too depressed to get out of the house. But no, let me rephrase that and be more specific. I'm not seeing people because on my days off, I'm so exhausted physically and mentally in a way that that doesn't correlate to any of the activities that I've done, that I'm hiding at home because I just, for me, the idea of going out and having my already exhausted brain bombarded with stimulus is terrifying. But that's no way to live. And that's not who I am. I'm only 33 years old. I am literally in the prime of my life. And I shouldn't be feeling like a 70-year-old retiree who just wants a bit of peace and quiet every single day you have off. And that's another thing. Like, I was like, I'm a 4-day work man. I will happily work 4 days a week. If I get 3 days off, then I will have a great balance. But this week I had a few, for various reasons, a few work things cancel. And I've worked 2 days, sorry. I've had 5 days off this week. And every single time a day off comes, I don't feel like leaving the house. I don't feel any more energetic. I don't feel like the life part of the work-life balance has filled out and enabled me to do things. I just feel tired every day. So I'm not doing this because I want sympathy. I'm not doing this because I get a little bit self-conscious when people are like, I hope you're okay, because yes, I am. Yes, I am okay. Thank you for expressing empathy and sympathy for me and for caring. But I am okay. And the reason I'm okay is because I know what constitutes mental illness. I know where the boundaries lie in regards to something that is not right and can be fixed. If I didn't know what was wrong with me, if I didn't understand that it was a problem that you could seek treatment for, if I didn't understand that there was something going on in my brain chemistry that isn't a part, that doesn't define who I am as a person, I would be racked with self-loathing, which would spiral, I would never leave the house, I would never wash, I would never get out, I would never be committed at work, I would never feel hopeful. And that's why I'm saying this. Because to feel this way and not have hope is a torture I can't even conceive. And I may be someone who doesn't realize that they're suffering, strays across this, watches it in part or all the way to the end of the 35 odd minute runtime, and goes, shit, I don't feel right either. Maybe that can be helped. Because it makes all the difference in the world to know that this isn't how life has to be. And that good things are out there. And will be out there on the other side when you get better. So to embracing the good things, treating the bad things, and understanding that sometimes things do afflict your personality things that you are not at fault for, to knowing that they can be solved, that they can be healed, and that you can be a great person again. Cheers.